Every journey has challenges, but it's those who keep moving forward who inspire us the most. Welcome to Survive, Rise and Thrive, where stories of resilience light the way.
In episode 13, Michael Rickman joins us to share his journey, how he faced adversity, rose above setbacks, and continues to thrive. Get ready for a story that will motivate you to reach higher.
Tune in and let Michael's story inspire you to survive, rise, and thrive. The journey continues. Are you ready?
Namaste. Welcome to episode 13 of Survive, Rise and Thrive series. I'm very excited to have our interesting guest with us here. His name is Michael Rickman. He is a tech leader in Canada, based in London. We'll talk about coding to strategic thinking in this episode. And welcome, Michael, to our episode.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so just to give you a little background of what is Survive, Rise and Thrive series, I started this series 6 months back, thinking that I'll get a good speaker who can inspire me and the people like me in our Canadian life, right? There's so many people who are actually doing a great job, but they are not necessarily get the limelight or something, inspirational platform, right? To inspire people there, right? So I was actually thinking about this platform, and here we are. I have 12 guests already before you, who is actually inspiring me, actually, and that is a reflection of that to our audience as well. Just sending the reflection there. So in this episode, we'll talk more about your personal journey. Obviously, you have been in tech industry for 25 years now plus, and we'll talk a lot of it. But I want you to introduce yourself very briefly.
Yes, so my name is Michael Rickman. I live and work in London, Ontario, where I've been for 26 years now. Wife, 2 daughters. I'm excited at the idea of inspiring young people, and hopefully I have something to say that's of value to others.
That's great. The value add aspect, right? I think the value add aspect is what I really admire about you as well. This is not the first time we are meeting, right? We have been meeting a lot of time, even in your networking events in Code Track, right? We have been meeting there, and I have seen your LinkedIn profile as well. Like, you have been quite instrumental on those aspects. So let's go to the early foundation part of it, right? Where you are doing a computer science degree, you're a techie guy, now also you are. But what drew you to computer science and technology field in the first place?
Yeah, I feel like calling me a techie guy, it doesn't feel authentic. As you will hear from my story, I consider myself barely techie, but I'll take it for now. Going back, I guess, to high school, leading into university, my interests were math and creative writing, and loved them both. Had to make a decision for a university degree. Math seemed a lot more practical than writing, so I ended up going to University of Waterloo for mathematics in the co-op program. And in the first year, everybody in the math faculty takes all the same courses, and I took my first 2 computer science courses. I'd never really done that before. I was not a computer science, coder in high school, and just fell in love with it. I think it really sort of hit the sweet spot between the problem-solving aspects of math and sort of the creative aspects of writing, in learning these languages and writing code to solve problems and produce output. Just seemed really, really interesting. So I decided to declare my major as computer science, and that's sort of how I stumbled backwards into it.
Yeah, I think I hope you can connect the dots now, as you are presently you have lots of experience in computer science now, right? And you are working as a strategy thinker, leader in your current company as well. But can you tell me, do you have some instance where you did the Bachelor of Maths and Mathematics and Computer Science back in 1994, right? At one of the prestigious university in the world, University of Waterloo, right? And it has hold the water for a long time now, right? But can you tell me some instant where you feel, okay, this time in university has shaped your thinking and the career path? Like, is there any instant as such?
Yeah, I mean, definitely from a computer science aspect, I mean, the courses were very intense. You know, all of my friends in the math program thought I was crazy for moving into computer science. It was just known to be, you know, a difficult, you know, late nights in the lab and all that type of thing. But it really was, you know, I learned a lot. And then having the co-op program where every 4 months I was switching between school and work, it was such an amazing benefit because I could see in my job how what I was learning could apply to it and vice versa. I'd be sitting in a class or reading a textbook and kind of be like, oh, that's related to what I did at my last co-op job. So, you know, that whole experience really like just kept me digging deeper into computer science for sure. But I think also, you know, in terms of where I have ultimately ended up, which I know we're working our way through that journey, but a big part of my university experience was outside of the computer science as well and exploring some other sort of aspects, either, you know, some things related. I took like a technical writing course, which was very interesting, or even just like following my other passion and taking some literature and creative writing courses. And so I think for how my career has evolved, that is a good sort of representation of how I've always liked to have balance, and I've never been just sort of singularly focused on like one particular skill set.
Exactly. Yeah, I think one of the things that I researched on, because we are doing this focus, right? I was going through your LinkedIn profile and the post that you do, right? I'm really impressed, Michael. You know, 25 years of IT experience, right? 6 different companies, and you stayed along in companies. Like the first company that you were there for 8 years. The second company, you were there for 5 years. And the third and the current company, you are there for 9 years. You know, so can you tell me more about this journey and what are the top 3 lessons that you learned in this overall 25 years of IT experience?
Yeah, so my first job out of university was as a coder, and small company here in London that over the course of me being there went through a lot of success and a lot of growth, you know, from less than 20 people to around 100 probably by the time that I left. And it was just an amazing learning experience to be a part of that type of company going through that sort of successful growth. You know, early on, the company was shifting from doing customer-specific projects to taking all that knowledge that they built up and building a standard product that they could kind of sell. And so I was able to participate in those early days of like design sessions and thinking about like the implication of technology choices. And you know, as much as I wasn't able to contribute that much, but definitely to learn and be actually given responsibility for writing key parts of the system. You know, I had to integrate with mainframes and build networking protocols. I built a whole front end like user interface display system that was based on XML because we didn't trust HTML at the time. So awesome experience. But also, you know, with a small company, you get an opportunity to wear a lot of hats. So every time there was something that needed to be done and there was nobody whose job was to do it, I would volunteer. So I ended up, you know, I would go to trade shows and not only like make sure the technology was working, but stand in the booth and talk to people and, you know, present our demos and then hand them off to the salespeople if, you know, they were truly interested. I helped develop a training course and then would actually go on site with customers and give a 5-day training course on some of our products that they could use. You know, technical writing, I was, you know, writing documentation. So it really was, once again, with my passion of being able to do different things, it really kind of gave me that experience in that first job. And so, you know, I mean, I learned a lot of different types of things that I realized I was capable of doing within the realm of technology.
Yeah, yes, so that's great. I think there is a lot of key takeaway there. One of them was obviously the open mind that you have at that moment, right? Obviously you have now as well, but that time you're all in for whatever comes in, right? You're a problem solver. So you try to see the problem and then see how we can solve this, right? I think that is a great lesson for me as well. Talking about myself, I also had nearly a decade of experience now, and I work in multinational company as an IT guy. I work in a startup as well, and then I really click on what you said, and if I had to reflect back, right? Let's talk about now, right? Got to 2025. You are a strategic leader at Trackunit, and I want to go into this leadership part as well, right? Because most of my circle are kind of going to leadership role now, right? As they have 8 to 10 years of experience, and these are the questions from them actually about the leadership. So the first question in leadership is, what was the most difficult part of transitioning into a leadership role? As you said, you were in the developer, and then how did you go to the leadership role?
Yeah, so in my last few years as a developer at that first company, you know, I took on a team lead role, so I had some other developers who were, you know, kind of reporting to me, and I was defining work and whatnot. And you know, I actually knew going back even into university, like I was never going to be a lifelong coder. Like I loved it. It was so much fun. But another thing that I learned through my co-op terms and then through my actual, you know, first job is that the discipline to take, you know, okay, I've solved the problem and actually turn it into, you know, reliable, production-ready, user-friendly applications. Like that is a very, very special skill. And my interest didn't lie in the minutia of like, how do I keep tweaking this code to make it better, perform better, more secure, all those types of things. So when I left that job, it was with the intention of exploring other areas within, you know, tech companies. And so I worked as sort of a business analyst, sales support type of person at my next company for the better part of 2 years. I then moved to a company for a brief time as a project manager. I then moved to another company as a project manager, and that is really where I think my leadership evolution started, because the person who hired me there, who recruited me because I'd worked with him previously, he mentored me, he encouraged me, he gave me a lot of responsibility as a project manager that you normally wouldn't have, because he knew I was capable of it, and he supported me in getting my PMP certification. So I really started to take on more and more responsibility as a leader, without having as much direct responsibility for people. And I think that also really helped me, because, you know, leadership takes many forms. And so, you know, I was ready to take on the leadership of, you know, process and software development and delivery. And it was easier to do that not having to be fully responsible for people themselves and managing them. So then, you know, within that company, I kind of took on a few different roles. It had also been acquired and was going through an evolution. And I eventually then came back to being directly responsible for software development as a manager, with people reporting directly to me. So I was really lucky, I think, to have the ability to work on my leadership skills before sort of having that full management role. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. You told so many difficult part there, but I'm sure our audience will know that. One of the key thing that executive or leadership role face is the communication skill, right? Because you're kind of a bridge between a technical person, technical team, and the executive teams, right? So I want to know, how did you develop your communication skill, right? Because you're a technical person, as I see, right? Then how did you develop that communication skill between these executives and the technical team?
It's a good question. I think it does stem from my love of language and reading and writing. I don't consider myself an outgoing person. I don't think of myself as a good speaker. I think of myself as a competent speaker. But I really loved that challenge of translating technical concepts into language and ideas that people with non-technical abilities could understand. I was very excited at that idea, and so I put effort into it, and I would think about, who is the audience? Am I talking to a salesperson, a customer, an executive? Understanding that each of those audiences is looking for something different and understands things in a different way. And I also found that my technical teammates, they appreciated that I could take on that task of translation, as you put it, because a lot of them didn't want to, right? They just wanted to focus on the technology, and who cares what anybody else thinks, even if they're paying the bills. So yeah, it was a conscious effort because it was something that I really liked. And I certainly, over the years, I've read books, listened to podcasts and audiobooks, and taken courses and stuff. So it's not like I just figured it out on my own. I definitely I recognize that as a useful skill within the realm of technology, and I put the effort in to learn it.
Oh yeah, for sure, and it's not an easy job, I guess, right? Talking about $1 million and explaining a line of code there, right? So it's a bloody rhyme, but a bloody space that we end in, but it's definitely worth it. And I think your creative space that you were talking about before really help in that realm as well for you, right? As you move along. Let's talk about the leadership style. Like, which leadership style do you prefer? And also talk about this strategic technology leadership role that you have in your LinkedIn.
Okay, leadership style. I typically think of myself as a servant leader. I always tell my teams, I'm here to do the stuff that you don't want to do in order to make you efficient at what you are here to do. So, I'm very collaborative. I want input from my teams about how they like to work, how they like to engage with each other, with the organization. And obviously I need to bring in structure and align with what an organization is expecting. But yeah, definitely, collaboration, and it's teamwork, right? Like, I can't do, even though I used to do what my team does, I can't do it anymore. It's been too long. So, none of us can be successful without each other on a team. So that's, it's team first for sure.
Got it.
What was the other question? Strategic.
Yes.
Why do I have strategic?
I was really fascinated by this term, right? Like, when you think about strategic thinking and the innovation, I think the intersection point is like, how do you think as a leader? Because every organization has a strategy, but what is the intersection between these two things, right? So,
yeah, to me, the strategy side, and it's LinkedIn, it's social media, so you're trying to come up with some very succinct ways to express ideas. And so I think strategy really expresses the idea of thinking beyond what your team is trying to deliver and thinking about what is the organization trying to achieve. Because if your team is not 100% with organizational goals, then you're not doing what you've been hired to do. You know, we're not hired to do technology. We're hired to make a company successful via our skills in technology. So to me, the strategic part is understanding the rest of the business. How are other teams operating that you need to interact with? How are other teams operating outside of technology and engineering? You know, how do they engage with customers? How do we engage with them and customers? What is the overall goal of the company? You know, are we trying to grow revenue through, you know, new customers, or are we trying to sell new stuff to existing customers? How does our market behave? How does the market see us? So all of these things, that's strategic thinking. That's, you know, that having a greater understanding of those things helps your day-to-day decision making actually become easier.
Exactly.
Because then you can think, well, I could do this or I could do this. Which one better aligns with the organizational strategy, and therefore, you know, you can easily understand how to move forward.
Yes, one of the lessons that my mentor gave in my early career was that you are not just the job description, right? That's what he said, and I think there is a win-win-win theory now. Like being a company, you can win. Being the customer that wins up, the customer can win, and being a developer who develops it, three can win at the time, right? So I think it's more of an ecosystem that you develop, and it should better align to the organization goal that they have. That's a great one, but there is another term called change management, right?
Yes.
It's a big thing in corporate world, and everyone is struggling with it. So my question to you, because you have been in the situation where your company was acquired, right? GTR was acquired by a big company, and at that instance, right, you have faced a lot. So what kind of advice do you have for leaders who is managing these changes in technical environment, or, you know, any environment?
This is really a big topic for sure, and I don't know that I feel overly qualified to speak on it, even though I definitely have opinions, but you know, it's really difficult going through those situations. And as I said, like my first company I worked for went through massive growth. My second one tried to and failed. They grew, and then they kind of had to shrink again. The company I worked for previous to now, they had been acquired just before I started, and so I went through a lot of those sort of like acquisition type things. With Trackunit and ZTR, it was a little bit more of a merger, but so all different flavors. So, you know, change management, I almost think that you can't do a job today without change management, because nothing ever stays the same anymore. Like it doesn't, you know, it just doesn't matter. You have to be prepared for change. And so, you know, small change you build into your day-to-day, weekly processes on like just being flexible as a team, but big, you know, company level organizational shift, culture shift. The number one thing is alignment across the organization. So you can't do it on your own. Nobody can do it. I could say one of my failures in earlier in my career is I thought I could kind of just do my own thing and build my own team and kind of ignore everybody else, and that didn't go well. So definitely you need to have alignment. You need to be working with people. You need to, just coming back to strategic thinking, like you need to think about what does the organization want, regardless of whether or not that's what you think is best. You know, you have to fall in line with what the organization is trying to achieve, and hopefully you can have some influence and you can collaborate with people, but you know, ultimately it's trying to turn an iceberg around at times. So it's a long process. You know, many challenging times with the Trackunit merger and came out in a really good place. I love working at Trackunit, and the pain was worth it in my opinion. But yeah, I'm not really sure what advice to give other than just work with everybody else and try to find a common path towards a better future.
Yes, that's true. And it depends on the individual, it depends on the team, there are so many pieces to it, right? And always, I think when you think about the leaders, leaders should not do firefighting, right? They should think on the strategic level. I think, like you said, if they are busy with the firefighting and the day-to-day job, then they would miss out the longer time frame vision, right? So yeah, let's talk about
actually just one other thing maybe that just pops to mind is so I was thinking organization-wide, but if you're leading a team through that, you do have a responsibility to try and help that team. They're not necessarily going to understand the big picture, why decisions are being made. So trying to share information as much as possible. I would constantly say to people on my team or my colleagues who were feeling stressed through the time of the merger that, you just got to think about what makes sense for you. And, for me, I would kind of look at what are the positive possible outcomes and how do I help us get there, as opposed to just worrying about what decision somebody else might make. You can't control those things, so it's really just about, you get to the top of the roller coaster hill and just bracing yourself because some of this is going to be out of your control and grit your teeth or scream. But yeah, try to keep a positive attitude and positive outlook. Exactly. And just help other people, contribute to positivity instead of, worry and fear about the future.
Yes, thank you so much. Talking about the positivity, right? I think it's very necessary in this very stressful world, right? People looks like they are very stressed out all the time. I don't know why. It feels that to me, but I'm just bringing my opinion here. But let's talk about your personal growth and mindfulness, right? I think we are hitting the nail here. You are certified in mindfulness, right? I really like that idea, but let's go two levels down to it. First, let's talk about leader, right? And then we can talk about individual. From the leadership point of view, how has this certification in mindfulness influenced your leadership style?
I was really I'm really lucky to work at a place like Trackunit because they put things like mindfulness in high regard. At our office here downtown, we have a meditation room. One of my colleagues has been going through getting a certification to teach mindfulness in the workplace. So there's effort and support. And so last year I was able to take part in a leadership program that they were running across the organization called the Mindful Leader, where we, groups of us in cohorts would be working with an individual who was giving us the course, and we would have kind of monthly sessions, and it was a great opportunity. So that is what my certification is getting through that Mindful Leader course. And it really, it is focused on mindfulness and leadership, which I also really appreciated because it was meant to be brought to us in a practical way.
Yeah.
What I got out of it, I mean, the cool thing about that is it's all built around this idea of your one big practice, which they really put forth the idea that if you really want to change and evolve and improve something about yourself, you really should just focus on one thing at a time, instead of just saying, well, here's everything that I could do better, let's just try and make it all better. It was very much about, first of all, finding what your one big practice would be for the year, and a lot of it was very heavily influenced by my team of people reporting to me. So they filled out surveys about my performance, and we had open discussions as a group, and they basically said that they wanted my one big practice to be around accountability in terms of holding, setting setting better goals for the team, holding them accountable, as well as being accountable myself for, being present and giving them, positive feedback. So it was really a really interesting approach that I really appreciated it, because you have that focus, and so I definitely feel like I evolved over time to improve in that area in a meaningful way. And so how does that come into my day to day? I mean, I do think about that in particular when I feel like maybe I'm backsliding a little bit. We also talk about this idea of red zone and green zone behaviors, and the thought that you're going to get more positive impact by focusing on building up your strengths instead of saying, oh, well, what am I bad at? I should make that better, because if you're bad at it, maybe you can't make it better. But being mindful of those red zone behaviors that make you less effective, and course correcting, and saying, I'm a procrastinator. And so being mindful and thinking, oh, am I procrastinating right now? Yes, I am. Let me push myself to not allow myself to do that. And so, that's really what mindfulness is to me right now with the training I've been able to do is all about just recognizing your less productive behaviors and trying to avoid them.
Exactly. I think that's a pattern that even Gautam Buddha, right? He also said the same thing. Be aware of what is happening, right? Then only you will come to know how to solve it, right? If you're not aware that this is happening to me, you will miss the point, right? So yeah, I think you did a great job. You're doing a good job being a leader, and even in your practical life today, you're doing you have a clarity in mind, right? That's it, and you can focus when the tides are very wide, the high pressure environment, right? So I think you answered my personal growth and mindfulness questions here, but let's talk about the next generation, right? I think future belongs to the next generation, obviously, and what are some of the advices to a different target group? Okay, so let's talk about A, that is a young IT professional. Maybe he just completed his bachelor degree as an IT or software engineer. Right? What are the advices for that set of audience?
I want to be careful about the more technical pieces of advice I give, just because I don't do the code anymore. So I don't necessarily have the experience of people today in terms of learning and getting into technology. But what I will say, that as a manager and somebody who hires people, I really look for adaptability. I think it shouldn't matter what languages you're experienced at. If you're good at your job and good as a software developer, you should be able to pick up new languages, new technologies, adapting. So, from a more technical standpoint, that's a big thing that I look for, outside of just general, ability to assess a problem and come up with an effective solution to that problem. But obviously, I look at things through my perspective, and I appreciate people who are also working on their other skills. Like I said before, leadership comes in many different forms, and so being a better communicator, understanding process and software development lifecycle and delivery, understanding the business that you're working in and what their goals are and what the customers really want and how the market looks like. To me, I think it's never too soon to be thinking about what's going on outside of just your role as a software developer or engineer, because that actually will help you to design better solutions.
Yes. Obviously, I would agree. I concur to your point that people at that age, like when they just started, they are all focusing the hard skill, the technical skill, like learning 10 different languages a day and all right. But what they miss, I often see in that in their age, is that the soft skills, right? You need to be a team player to work in environment, right? You need to be a process-driven person rather than just doing everything at once, right? You need to develop that empathetic skill inside you, right? So that you can talk to the client. So there are so many other soft skills that they miss out during their, let's say, 2 to 3, 5 years of their journey, right? I think that is something to be considered at that age, although they might not listen to us, right, at that age. So we understand that craze and train there. But let's talk about the tech professional who has maybe 5 to 10 years of experience, and then they want to go to a leadership role now, right? What are the top advices for them, Michael?
Yeah, I think like any skill, you need to learn and you need to evolve and you need to work at it. So, there's books, there's podcasts, there's courses. I think taking some general courses or what have you around just basic leadership skills, like start small, start basic. Definitely, like there's a lot of different concepts out there. There's different ways of looking at it. Like you asked me, what do I see as my leadership style? Like there are different leadership styles, and really you shouldn't ever just sit in one. So to me, that's where it starts is kind of just exploring, as well. Looking for mentors. Definitely, like one of the best things I had was when I had a boss or a mentor who really, could help me to learn and evolve beyond technical. So, finding that as well is definitely good. And also just, I want to acknowledge the fact that there's different kinds of leaders. I'm a manager, I'm a people leader at this point in a technical company. But we have, and all companies need technical leaders. Like you can have a leadership role without having people report to you. And in that role, you still need to be a good communicator, a good collaborator. Like all of those same skills apply. You're just staying more focused on the technology and the problem solving and spending less time on supporting the people. So also it's good to recognize that and think about where do you want to sit as a leader? What is ideal to you? Because I've seen people shift from technical to people leadership and not like it at all and shift back, right? And that's fine too. So also look for those opportunities to, hey, can I run this project for the team, or can I, take over the sprints, or there's little things you can do within your job, and that's the best way to evolve is to do it while you're working, because as you get older you have less and less time to then go home and read another book.
Think beyond what you are expected to do, and then you'll explore the new things there. I would like to say one concept here, the T-shape, right? When you talk about the T-shape, I think one skill should be very much focused, and the other can be a service level understanding for you, so that you can view it from a different perspective, right? I think that is what we are heading towards. It's not. I think the world will run into a multi-skill domain now. It's just not just one technical. You're in tech field, you should be good in tech. You should be good in, let's say, if you're healthcare, you should know your domain, and then the tech is always a team, right? So I think that's how things are evolving, and we should be there learning about things. So the next question is about AI. Obviously, we are a techie guy, we should talk about AI, right? That's what they expect out of us. we are in industry 4.0, right? We are in AI evolution right now. So as a technical leader, Michael, how do you see this AI wave coming through? How are you preparing yourself, and can you shed some light on it?
Yeah, I mean, at Trackunit, we are definitely embracing AI in a big way, and I am part of a group that is trying to promote and support the adoption of AI technology within the organization. And, that's a lot about educating people, providing them access to the technology, and as well as resources on, how to use it, best practices and whatnot. We've had a lot of AI talks at CodeTracks. That's more just because that's what people want to talk about. So, that's just the state of the nation. So that's sort of what I'm doing, and on a personal level, trying out different things and reading a lot of articles about it. I definitely have my opinion on to what extent it is useful versus not. I don't know that I need to get into that now, but it's unavoidable, and it's going to change everything. It already is changing everything. So it's not about should we do it or not do it. It's more about how do we benefit from it as a new tool to do what we're here to do as technologists, which is to deliver valuable products to people, right? So it's just another way to help us deliver. It's all the sensational topics around it. It's interesting to talk about. It's great to debate, but ultimately, it's like any other new technology. You need to evaluate it with care, adopt it, and think about what is the impact of it to my customer, to my end user for whatever I'm building. Because if you turn something into AI and it doesn't serve their needs, they're not going to be happy, and they're not going to think, oh well, at least it's AI. That's great. No, it's still got to be useful.
It will fizzle out for sure, right? When the times come, right? It's not AI everywhere. Oh yeah. So and I also like the fact that data is the new oil of the century, right? And obviously, those who hold data will win the AI race for sure. And also, the whistleblowers are saying that data should not be concentrated in one region only, right? That's why we have lots of decentralization happening in the AI space, right? And that's what we are seeing. Yeah. So I have one more last question before we go to the rapid fire round, Michael. What do you look forward to at this time of your life, Michael? Are you exploring any entrepreneur venture? You are a full-time job guy, as I see now. I don't know the behind story, but are you looking forward to open your own company? So what are the things that you're looking for?
I'm not really the entrepreneurial type. Never have been. I like contributing to a successful vision. I don't necessarily want to be the person out in front defining that on my own. But it's been an interesting journey, as I said, with the Trackunit merger, and Trackunit recently was just sold again. Our majority owner is now Goldman Sachs.
Oh, wow. Yes.
With our minority owner continuing to be HD Capital, who was our majority owner for the last 4.5 years. So I'm kind of just looking forward to what changes are we going to see now with this new ownership, new leadership. What direction are they going to take us in? It seems like a big number to say that I've been at the same company now for actually 10.5 years. But the reality of it is, there have been so many changes year over year. It doesn't feel like it feels like I've changed jobs about 5 times. So that's what's kept me there, and each iteration is different, it's interesting, there's new challenges, but it's gotten better. So professionally, I'm interested in that, and just seeing how CodeTracks keeps growing is pretty exciting. That's where I'm at right now.
And obviously you have a personal life as well. You have beautiful daughters as well. You have family time, right? You need to have family time.
Yeah, I've got my older daughter. She just finished first year university. My younger daughter's halfway through high school. So, off time is really just about like spending time as a family as much as possible and enjoying that as well, and enjoying living in downtown London, which is fun and amazing. So
yeah, interesting at times. All right, so the rapid fire round. So we are at the rapid fire round, and it's going to be kind of a reflection round as well. So Michael, one book that changed your perspective.
So going back to, I guess, my previous job, when I really started to evolve into a leadership role, and one of my managers within that company, before I was managing people, or even was considering actually managing people, gave me the book Leading with Emotional Intelligence. And that really, I hadn't thought about that concept or been introduced to that concept in such a succinct way before. And so, that really had a big impact on me. I'm sure there are newer books with those concepts as well, but that's the one that comes to mind as that definitely it resonated so much with my leadership style of being empathetic and understanding and really treating people as people.
Who is the author of this book?
I don't remember.
I remember. Oh, that's fine. All right. So we talk about a lot of success all the time, and you spoke about your failure once. But can you talk about a failure that actually turned into the blessing as you see it now?
That's a good question.
I told you it's going to be reflective.
This feels less rapid fire because I'm now not rapidly firing back.
We can reverse it.
There's been so many failures. That's the problem. Failure isn't necessarily failure as long as you learn and grow. The thing that comes to mind, and I would say this is my biggest financial failure, and I will not spend too long telling the backstory, but I hired a person. We were looking at adopting an off-the-shelf technology as a reporting system. This person did some investigation, made a recommendation, and then they left the organization after having only been there for 4 months. And I took their recommendation and I ran with it, and it was, there were many times that I should have pulled the plug on it. There were outside consultants and contractors and pulling people internally off of projects to try and make this thing work in the way that people kept telling us, oh no, we can do that, and then we just find out, oh wait, no, I can't do that. So yeah, years, and we were so invested in it and just needed to get something out the door to appease our customers that we couldn't adjust. And just within the past 2 months, we were finally able to turn it off. So big failure in terms of cost to the company. We could have had a much better solution at a lower cost.
Your time as a team.
And time and what have you, customer happiness. And what's the takeaway from that? It's you need to you need to be careful about where you're investing, and you need to kind of cut your losses. And it's not all on me. I kind of like feel responsible because I made the ultimate decision at the beginning, but there were many times where as a team, as a leadership team, the decision was made to keep going forward. But it's also a lesson in just, you got to move on as well.
Yep.
Like, nobody thought I should get fired because of it, because we all make bad decisions, and things don't work out the way you want them to, even with the best of intentions.
Yes.
So that was a big failure, and I feel like it's behind me now.
No worries, no worries. I think you're a certified mindful coach, so you should be good. So one last question, Michael, before we wrap up, and this is the cheesy question as well. In my 12th episode, during my 12th episode, nobody has given a same answer to this question, and the question is, what is life for you?
What is life for me?
Putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
This is the kind of question I'd love to contemplate for a long time, but that's not what we're here to do. What is life for me? It's not difficult. I know what matters to me, and that is, it starts with my family and my friends, and so, I want them to be happy, and I want to be happy alongside them, and so, the decisions always kind of start from that core principle. And so where I work has a huge influence on that. What I do has a huge influence on that. And I would say my achievements in my career have been heavily influenced by the effect that they have on my family life. And you could probably say I definitely put that first. I've not pursued certain potential career opportunities because of it, and I have no regrets whatsoever. So that's what life is to me. It's balance. Like, I want to enjoy what I do, but I need to recognize as well that that's just one part of my life, and I like my life to feel in balance with everything, hopefully being as positive as possible.
Yes, and that's all. I think we are closing for this time. I will link Michael's LinkedIn account in case if you want to have a conversation with him. Please reach out to him in LinkedIn. He is very approachable. That is how I got hold of him for this podcast, and I'm very glad that you accepted that in your first meeting itself. Thank you so much, Michael. I hope I didn't make you, I didn't question you in a very deep level. Just want to go with the surface level today. And thank you so much, Michael. If you want to end this podcast with your final thoughts, here you go.
I just wanted to say thank you to you. This has been very pleasurable, and it's been nice speaking with you over the last couple of years as we've gotten to know each other. I think this is such an interesting thing that you're doing, and wanted to support it. So you're trying to put positivity out into the world. So
yes,
this is great.
Thank you so much, Michael. And stay tuned for another podcast. We will have another episode with amazing people like Michael, and see you on the other side. Thank you.